Tonight, the world is watching Iran, an ancient nation now at the center of a modern storm. Across the globe, millions are glued to their screens, witnessing a pivotal moment unfold in real time. The streets of Tehran are alive with the voices of protest, echoing demands for change and freedom, while the world holds its breath, uncertain of what tomorrow may bring. And so is Donald Trump. The former US president, never one to shy away from controversy, has turned his attention to the unrest, making his presence felt from thousands of miles away. Trump has issued a blunt and unmistakable warning to Tehran. If the Iranian government kills peaceful demonstrators, the United States is, in his words, locked and loaded. This phrase, loaded with military connotation, signals a readiness to act, and it's a message that cannot be ignored by Iran's leaders or the international community. Delivered via his social media platform, Trump's message is intentionally ambiguous, leaving Iran, and indeed the world, guessing about what form US intervention might take. Is it a threat of military action, economic sanctions, or something else entirely? The uncertainty is part of the strategy, keeping adversaries off balance. This threat has dramatically raised the stakes, injecting a new level of international pressure into what was once a domestic crisis. World leaders are now scrambling to respond, holding emergency meetings and issuing statements as the situation in Iran becomes a global flashpoint. Iran's leaders now face a daunting dilemma: restore order at home, risking brutal crackdowns that could provoke US action, or seek a more measured response and risk losing control of the streets. The regime must weigh its options carefully, knowing that any misstep could have far-reaching consequences. For the protesters, Trump's words could be seen as a lifeline, a sign that the world is watching and that powerful allies may be ready to step in. But it's also a double-edged sword. The regime may seize on Trump's statement to claim foreign interference, using it as justification to crack down even harder on dissent. Around the globe, governments and citizens alike are left wondering, will this warning deter violence, or will it escalate the crisis further? The uncertainty is palpable, as diplomats scramble to prevent a wider conflict and news outlets dissect every word and gesture. Trump's statement has drawn a clear line in the sand, a red line that, if crossed, could trigger unpredictable consequences. The world has seen such moments before, but rarely with stakes this high. The entire region now stands on edge, with rhetoric escalating on all sides. Military forces are on alert, and the possibility of miscalculation looms large, threatening to ignite a much larger conflict. As the world watches and waits, the next move, by Iran, by the protesters, or by the United States, could change everything, shaping the future of the Middle East and beyond. Tehran didn't stay silent in the face of Trump's warning. Instead, the Iranian leadership responded swiftly and decisively, making it clear that they would not be intimidated by threats from Washington. The city's government buildings buzzed with activity as officials prepared their counter-narrative, determined to show strength both at home and abroad. Iranian officials fired back, warning that any US interference would endanger American troops across the region. They emphasized that Iran's reach extends far beyond its borders, and that American military personnel stationed in neighboring countries could be at risk if tensions escalated further. The message was clear: any aggressive move would have consequences not just for Iran, but for the entire region. Ali Larijani, advisor to the supreme leader, declared that intervention would destabilize not just Iran, but the entire Middle East. He warned that a conflict could ignite a chain reaction, drawing in other countries and plunging the region into chaos. Larijani's words were echoed by other senior officials, who painted a picture of widespread instability if the US chose to escalate. The regime's message was unmistakable: any hostile move will be met with force. Iran showcased its military might in parades and public displays, sending a signal to both domestic and international audiences that it was prepared to defend itself at any cost. Tehran is using this standoff to rally domestic support, framing the crisis as a battle against foreign enemies. State media broadcast images of large crowds waving flags and chanting patriotic slogans, reinforcing the narrative that the nation must unite in the face of external threats. The government's defiance is meant to deter Washington and justify a potential crackdown. By portraying itself as a victim of foreign aggression, the regime seeks to legitimize harsh measures against dissent and maintain tight control over the population. For protesters, this means their struggle for a better life is now entangled in a dangerous geopolitical game. Many fear that their voices will be drowned out by the government's calls for unity, and that their demands for reform will be sidelined in the name of national security. The risk of escalation is real, and ordinary Iranians could become collateral damage. As tensions rise, the threat of violence looms over daily life, leaving many citizens anxious about what the future holds. The regime is doubling down, determined not to back down. Leaders project an image of unwavering resolve, insisting that Iran will not yield to foreign pressure, no matter the cost. The standoff grows more perilous by the day. With each new threat and counter-threat, the possibility of miscalculation increases, and the fate of millions hangs in the balance as the world watches anxiously. What sparked these protests? Not politics, but economic collapse. The Iranian rial's dramatic fall and soaring inflation have made daily life unbearable for millions. Shopkeepers in Tehran's Grand Bazaar closed their doors in desperation, igniting a wave of unrest. The government's failure to stabilize the economy has shattered public trust. President Pezeshkian has admitted mistakes, but his words offer little comfort. The protests, once about bread and wages, now question the regime's very legitimacy. Iranians see their future slipping away, blaming years of corruption and mismanagement. The middle class is vanishing, and hope is in short supply. The closed shops were more than protest, they were a cry for help. The social contract is broken. Iranians are no longer willing to suffer in silence. In recent months, unrest has spread far beyond the capital city of Tehran, reaching deep into towns and provinces across Iran. What once seemed like isolated incidents have now become a nationwide phenomenon, with people from all walks of life taking to the streets. The movement is no longer confined to the urban elite or political activists. It has touched the lives of ordinary citizens in rural areas and small cities, uniting them in a common cause. What began as a protest over economic hardship, rising prices, unemployment, and a lack of opportunity, has transformed into something much larger and more powerful. The frustration over daily struggles has ignited a bold political movement, as people realize that their grievances are rooted in deeper issues within the system itself. Demonstrators now openly call for the end of Supreme Leader Khamenei's rule, an act that would have been unthinkable just months ago. The fear that once silenced dissent has been replaced by a new sense of courage and urgency. Protesters chant slogans that directly challenge the highest authorities, signaling a dramatic shift in the public's willingness to confront power. Some even express nostalgia for the monarchy, openly referencing the era of the Shah. This longing for the past is not just about a different leader, but a sign of deep disillusionment with the current regime. It reflects a yearning for stability, dignity, and a sense of national pride that many feel has been lost. The movement now echoes the spirit of the woman life freedom protests, with women often at the forefront, leading chants and organizing demonstrations. What started as specific grievances has rapidly evolved into a sweeping demand for systemic change, encompassing calls for personal freedoms, gender equality, and human rights. Authorities have responded with force, deploying security units, riot police, and even declaring sudden public holidays in an attempt to disrupt the momentum. Yet despite these efforts, the protests persist and continue to grow, undeterred by intimidation or crackdowns. The crowd's demands have shifted dramatically. Economic reforms are no longer enough. Protesters are now calling for fundamental changes to the political system, demanding accountability, transparency, and a voice in their own future. The regime faces a challenge it can no longer resolve with promises or minor concessions. The old tactics of appeasement and delay have lost their effectiveness as the people's patience has run out. A threshold has been crossed. The situation has reached a point where there is no easy path back to the status quo. The standoffs between protesters and police have become more intense, and the sense of urgency in the streets is palpable. Iran's protest movement has become a direct and unprecedented challenge to the system itself. The world is watching as a new chapter in the country's history unfolds, driven by the voices of those demanding real and lasting change. The protests have turned violent, with deadly clashes between demonstrators and security forces. Official reports confirm several deaths, but the real toll is likely higher. Both sides blame each other for the bloodshed, fueling an information war online and in state media. The government warns of a decisive response, hinting at harsher crackdowns ahead. Each casualty deepens the divide. Protesters see martyrs, the regime sees threats to order. The violence is self-perpetuating, making peaceful resolution ever more remote. The world watches with alarm as the death toll rises. For many Iranians, the fight is now about survival, not just reform. The stakes have never been higher. The streets of Iran are battlegrounds and the cost is measured in lives. Iran's government, led by President Pezeshkian, is torn between concession and crackdown. Officials acknowledge economic pain and promise reforms, but also threaten harsh responses to political dissent. The regime blames foreign interference, justifying arrests and a heavy security presence. This mixed messaging reveals a government under immense pressure, struggling to balance reform with control. The leadership offers dialogue on the economy, but draws a hard line against calls for regime change. Can they promise relief while threatening force? As demands grow more political, the government's balancing act looks increasingly unsustainable. International pressure, especially from Trump, complicates their calculations. Every move is scrutinized. One misstep could spark catastrophe. Iran's rulers are fighting battles at home and abroad, with no easy way out. Iran's crisis is unfolding on a global stage already on edge. Recent U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites and Iran's missile attack on a U.S. base have brought both nations to the brink. Trump's threat has turned Iran's domestic unrest into an international flashpoint. Iranian officials warn that U.S. intervention could destabilize the entire Middle East. The risk of miscalculation is high, with regional powers like Israel and Saudi Arabia watching closely. Protesters hope global attention will protect them, but fear foreign involvement could spark catastrophe. The international community is anxious, as the fate of millions hangs in the balance. Iranians are caught in a high-stakes chess match between Tehran and Washington. Their fight for dignity is now hostage to forces beyond their control. The future has never been more uncertain,